Quick video. Saw some people on the beach earlier. I got to thinking about like simple stuff. Somebody asked me about about magic, if I believed in magic. I can't speak about archetypes, or using those things, as theistic viewpoints of something. Again, I'm not an atheist or a theist. I vibe kind of like with the deistic view with some elemental white magical stuff combined with psychology, psychiatry. So I wouldn't say I'm just kind of like eclectic in my views on a lot of stuff. The point is that I saw these people at the beach and they're making a fire, and I was thinking about like the element of fire and what that symbolizes. And I was thinking like, each person brings their bit of something to the circle, the fire. They have their logs, they light the logs on fire, which creates warmth, which then is like the warmth of good conversation between people. The fire burns, and as it burns, it passions are ignited with speaking passionately about stuff. And then we see the logs slowly burn away, the thoughts slowly burn away. Then you get tired and you go home. That's the fire is burnt out. But you have all of that new, the flame is a symbol of consciousness, of mind, of burning, new ideas, new things happening, and you share those with your circle of friends. And then that, the fire goes out, the conversation ends, then you kind of, that fire there, you kind of walk off, and you're come back to your normal, if you want to call it normal, there's no such thing as normal, but like your regular mindset where you're not around your friends. You're grounded like the element of earth, and then you kind of go and live your life. And, like you have, it's like the wood burning, like the wood burns, and then, it turns to ash. And that ash kind of like reminds us of, you could go and blow the ash away, like those fleeting moments, an hour or two at a fire on the beach with friends, burning with the passions of consciousness, of mind, of new thought, like, the fire element represents, are very meaningful in life. It's those little things that seniors, when they're older on their deathbeds, actually look back and remember. Those little moments help define their life. It's not the huge, grandiose things. I got to meet the president, that's great, but it's always the little stuff like that, the very grounded, kind of like, more intimate stuff that really matters to a lot of people. So we sit there and we see something as insignificant as the ash, which is left, and we think it's just ash, but in reality, it's just a symbolic of, let's say, this exchange of something of mind, of consciousness, of thought, that is kind of, we've been burning with passion, sharing these things with one another. And then we have, this supposedly meaningless substance in front of us, which goes back into the planet. It's kind of like we come back down from the rising heat, and we kind of are grounded and turned back. Those thoughts are kind of grounded in our regular lives, and we kind of mold them over, in our regular life. It's like if somebody tells you something really crazy, and then it takes you a while to process it. That's like while you're doing that, like in your regular life, you don't know what to think of it at first. You don't want to get out of hand, or you don't want to burn too bright. You don't want to get wound up and kind of take those ideas to someplace where it's not good. But when you're discussing these things, there's a lot of meaning in that. So it's just a thought. A good way to view fire, it brings people together. The promise of new thoughts, of higher consciousness, of new material. It brings people together, this gathering place, the fire can symbolize, the fires burn. That's the, thoughts being shared as the wood is slowly consumed. The conversation goes on, and then we part ways, and it's like all that's left are the memories, the ash of that conversation. And then, it's like we carry that fire with us to those new mindsets that our friends share with us to help stoke other fires in our life in other places. So I think that's a very interesting way to look at it. That's a non-theistic viewpoint of what, let's say, one way that I view the fire element as well as the earth element. Sometimes we can have a heated conversation in a good way with someone, like a sports team. You're talking about your sports team, you like your basketball team, whatever. You'd be heated in the conversation in a good way, like a healthy friendship manner, and then kind of get up and go do your own thing. And it's kind of like, the fire burns bright, but you have to remember that's your friend. Don't get upset. Then the logs turn to ash. And it's grounded again. It's something you can turn back into the earth. It grounds you, stay grounded, and then you part your ways, and you kind of learn something from it. So it's just a thought. That's kind of like one way that you could use that symbol. I don't think that symbols, in a lot of ways, I don't think that's harmful or baneful. I don't get into such practices. But I think symbolically, symbolism, that's why we have logos and stuff. Symbolism plays a part in our lives. Stoplight is a symbol for something. To go, to yield, or to stop. So when you put that into context, clearly, symbols play a huge role in our lives. A grocery store is a symbol of a place to buy food. So we see a logo and we associate it with, a place to procure nourishment for our being. So it's just a thought. That's, again, this is something that you could take to occupy Mars. You could take to Mars someday, and it's not ever going to be seen as, some less than thing. It's not going to be seen as irrelevant, because it's just a symbol of what fire might represent. So you sit there and take the four classical elements, or let's just say earth, air, fire, and water, and you combine those and their symbolic meaning and whatever that means to you with your mind, and then you kind of are doing your white magical practice. It's that simple, like water flows. We have to flow through life. Water also can wear away tough things, which is something that's symbolic of determination. Stick to a goal or a task. Earth is grounded. Air can be, the flow of air or the loftiness of consciousness. Fire can purify things out of our lives. Where we get passionate, but we tell somebody, our feelings on something, let's say in a healthy manner. I told my, my friend that I was upset that they did something. They said something that made me upset. We can burn with passion for a little bit, but it purifies that thing within us because we get that passion out in a healthy manner. So it's, again, air flows around us. Air is another symbol of consciousness, of higher mind, of thinking beyond. Sometimes fire can be more like a down to earth kind of consciousness too. Or a passionate consciousness or a passionate thought, let's say, or more down-to-earth thought. While air could be something that's in the higher realms, the not thinking of self, thinking of others, going above and beyond. The colors of the sky, the peace that brings, the blue, which is actually proven by science that blue actually keeps us mellow. But if you look at it too long, it can make us depressed. But it's kind of interesting how that works, that duality like that. They stay grounded like earth. Flow like water. And just, there's a lot of, and then, the top of the star is your mind and how you integrate each of those elements. Your own light is, Buddha or Christ, those types of characters, those figures, those metaphors, allegories, fables, tales, legends, religions, spiritual practices, practitioners, whatever the hell you want to call them. I'm not trying to disrespect anybody's belief, so forgive me. I'm not trying to cuss with what I'm speaking about, but I'm not perfect, but, using those names, I'm trying not to cuss, but how we integrate those things to be your own light, basically, to be a light of beacon of goodness into the world. I think that holds great value. And again, somebody might sit there and say, we might strip down the Christ or the Buddha, those characters, you want to take that to some other planet, but you're always going to have your association. We already do it with the news. The rover takes a picture of Martian rock. We say, it looks like a door. Because we're seeing these archetypes. We want to see other things in the universe and know that we're not alone. So we're kind of projecting ourselves, these images, onto these other places. Because, Fermi paradox, it'd be interesting to see that there's other sentient life out there. We might feel lonely being the only, advanced species in the universe. So it's just one of those things that we do. And, you could take that understanding anywhere. The fire of a booster engine. Then you have the element right there, water is life for so many things. We're made of mostly water. Most of our chemical reactions in us, are tied to certain things like that. So it's just kind of interesting to think about, just our whole system. We're mostly water. We die without it. We can go longer without food than we can without water. So it's really interesting to think about. Air, especially on a planet where they don't have oxygen, air is going to be a huge one that's going to play an integral role in your existence. We have to generate that, so it's going to be seen as practically, deifiable on another planet. So it's just a thought. That concept is going to go wherever humans go, wherever they go in any universe, any multiverse, any planet, any moon, any whatever the hell. So if you think about that, we'll just reinterpret it in another light. And that's why a lot of people think things like that are of celestial origins. But again, I'm not a specialist in the matter. It's just my little interpretation of something I just want to share. So anyway, have a good night.